Today, I'm talking with Captain Jake Farrell, and this is a fun story about how we met. Jake has been messing around in boats for over 50 years. That's what he calls it, messing about in boats. He got that from the wind and the willows. Right now, he takes care of James Taylor's boats and works as harbor master in Middletown, Rhode Island. In winter, he sails his 35-foot boat south by himself. But here's the thing about Jake and me. When we first met, he totally dismissed me. I was covering harbor news for a scrappy weekly paper with no budget, going up against the big daily news. Jake probably thought I was just another average reporter who didn't get it. Then something changed. At Christmas, Jake called me. He said he'd been watching my work and liked how I covered the waterfront and sailing, which the Daily called elitist and turned its back on. He wanted to help. First it was news tips, then Jake started slipping me photographs from races and harbor incidents, but he had to be careful not to show favoritism between us underdogs and the establishment, Daily News. Jake was actually in the perfect storm, that Sebastian Junger book, Lassoing Boats. As harbor master, he's dealt with mega yachts and their entitled owners. He's seen the ultra-wealthy at their worst and best. But Jake isn't bitter. He's made his whole life into art. While other people follow scripts about success and money, Jake chose boats and water and freedom. And his philosophy worked. His son Rory Farrell built his own success as a hip-hop podcaster and music executive in New York. While Jake was dealing with entitled wealth on Newport's waterfront, he raised a son who created real success through talent and hard work. Jake represents something real in an increasingly fake world. When mainstream media calls sailing elitist, they miss people like Jake. They miss the working waterfront. They miss the guys who actually know what they're doing out there. Jake rejected the script entirely. He made living itself his art. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today.
I don't know if you remember, my initial interaction with you was slightly negative. Do you remember that?
Yes, because you were at the time with the press. And
yeah.
You never know. And I think I had been in the job long enough to be defensive at first. It was just a defense mechanism for sure.
I remember you were quite gruff. I called you and one of your guys brought you to the phone and you're like, yeah, goodbye.
Well, you probably caught me at a bad time.
I probably did, yes. But then I'll never forget when you called me one Christmas after Harbor News had been established, which was the section in the paper that focused on the harbor. And you called and you said, "I really like what you're doing, and I'm here to help. I'm here to help in any way I can." And that was a beautiful phone call.
Yeah. That was the start of a good relationship.
Yeah. You were very helpful. You let me know what was going on the harbor.
Yeah, because nobody else really was covering it.
It was strange. There was a sort of culture at the Newport Daily News that was sailing and anything maritime is elitist, so we're just not going to cover it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because, in a town like Newport, the harbor community, it's almost like its own little town with its own little problems and interactions. But I don't know why. Know why.
Well, it left the plane. It left like this whole world open for me. It was great to be a reporter focusing on that area because it was so rich, full of fights between waterfront owners and helicopters getting dinged by sailors. Do you remember that one?
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you were the source for that one, but I remember that rotor on that helicopter on that mega yacht, and then got nicked by this little S-boat that went by. One of our local celebrities on the S-boat, and he didn't report it. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, and the guy on that yacht, he drove me crazy. The captain, he was the most arrogant guy I ever met. He drove the boat, he drove the yacht, and he drove the helicopter, and he was never wrong about anything. One of the pleasures of being the harbor master. It's a lot of personalities different backgrounds.
That's right. Because back in the day, I forgot to mention you were the harbor master of Newport Harbor, which is one of the largest harbors on the Northeast, correct?
Yeah, it's one of the largest recreational harbors, and definitely a mega yacht haven now.
Yeah.
And all the big sailboats come here. So we, we're holding on to our, what we feel is the yachting capital of America. Fort Lauderdale and Annapolis argue with us, but we did steal the Sailing Hall of Fame from Annapolis, so we have that going for us.
Talk to us about the thing that you coined, that expression.
Well, I call our sea breeze in Newport the $1 billion breeze. The two main reasons in Newport, the mansions and the America's Cup, all are I can't think of the right word, but predicated on this phenomenon that we have. The sea breeze is created by the thermal that comes from Providence down Narragansett Bay. So the hotter it is in Providence, the more wind is going to blow in Newport, because that heat travels down Narragansett Bay and it hits the cold ocean, and that creates the wind. So back in the day when there's no air conditioning, the blue bloods would always get their breeze in the afternoon. And the same token, the America's Cup, even though there was no wind in Long Island Sound and up in Buzzards Bay, there's wind in Newport because of our geographical location, that we can create this breeze.
They moved it to Newport. Is it for that breeze?
I think so, yeah, because the wind in the summer in New York, it can be stagnant.
Yeah.
There's no doubt that it came here because of the wind, and there's no doubt that's why the mansions were built. It was a spa-like. A lot of people, as I understand it, would spend time here and in Saratoga for the spas in Saratoga. It was the same crowd.
Well, people are flocking to Newport now. Real estate prices have tripled in the last 10 years.
If you think about how it's changed in the 30 years that we've known each other.
Well, in 30 years ago, it was $1 million breeze, but now it's the $1 billion breeze.
Well,
right?
Yeah.
I think to be rich, you have to have $1 million annual income.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Easily. I don't think $1 million is rich anymore.
No.
Yeah. No.
Well, you're rich in friends. You're very lucky, and I'm lucky to count you as one of my friends, Jake.
Well, the feeling is likewise, Diana. Things will never change between us. I mean, I don't talk to you for 2 years, and then we talk, and it's just catch up again.
Yeah. So what have you learned about ultra wealthy boat owners or mega yacht owners in Newport?
Well, they're all different, but and I really rarely got to know the owners. They're rarely on the boats. You get to know the crew more.
Right.
But we've had some, what I call POWs, pieces of work. That guy Daniel Snyder, he owned the Washington Redskins. He was a piece of work. I don't interact with the owners too much. When I was involved with the America's Cup, I rubbed elbows with a lot of blue bloods. I had an opportunity to have more one-on-one with people like that.
Well, before we get to your America's Cup adventures, I was going to let our listeners know that you were in that huge storm that Sebastian Junger wrote about in his book, The Perfect Storm.
Yeah, no, you kind of misremembered that. During that storm, I was the Newport Harbor Master, and I was out in the harbor lassoing boats. But I was in another historic storm off the Cape Hatteras back in the 80s, and it was featured in a book called Total Loss. And I went through that, and that was, it was quite the storm because there was about 20 or 30 boats waiting in Beaufort, North Carolina, just waiting for weather, because the sailing directions there is you want to just go straight across the Gulf Stream and get into the trade winds and hang a right and sail with the wind behind you down to the islands. So everyone was anxious, and what everyone thought was a window, everyone took off, and it was a lot of carnage. A lot of boats were lost, a couple lives, um, but I survived that one. That's probably the worst storm I was ever in.
What do you think contributed to you surviving it?
A good boat, and I think we made a few good decisions. I mean, I had broke the mizzen mast, and the waves were actually so strong that it bent the stainless steel stanchions.
Wow.
It was crazy, and we had to, because I was taking so much water over the deck, like we were sinking from the top, not the bottom, that I had to break the rules and turn downwind, which you never
Mm.
want to do in a storm because you can broach and turn sideways. But we took that chance,
Mm.
and we had guys on the helm, every half hour, and basically surfing down these 40-foot waves. Really, just
Wow.
to survive. It worked out. The boat was great. We never got close to broaching. We learned how to handle it, and took it from there. We washed up in St. Augustine, and I kissed the ground. I remember that.
Well, did it have a really good keel? Unlike, that boat, the Bahetian, I don't know if I'm saying it right, that mega yacht that capsized and sank off
Yeah.
Sicily, where Mike Lynch and his daughter died on the boat. I mean,
Yes.
that was weird.
Yeah. I. That was the strangest thing. No, the boat I was on, it was a very handsome Abbot King Rasmussen motor sailor, Sparkman Stevens design,
Mm.
and she had a centerboard. And I think this is one of the
Mm.
reasons that helped save us. I put the centerboard up once we decided to go downwind, and
Okay.
I think that helped. That helps stopping us from broaching.
Wasn't there a similar problem on, the centerboard on the Bahetian? Weren't they supposed to do something and they didn't do it?
Yeah, I think the centerboard wasn't down. Maybe it should have been down. I didn't follow the whole thing, but yeah, there was some seamanship, some basic seamanship that was. I think
Mm.
the first mistake was they shouldn't have been in there. They probably should have got out of there. But I don't know. I guess the storm came up quick.
Yeah, yeah. I've been off of Sicily in one of those windstorms, and they just come out of nowhere. They're just kind
Yeah,
of crazy.
yeah.
It's really scary, actually. The Chirocco, but I think this was more than a Chirocco. Tell us about the America's Cup. Was it, what year were you working on that?
Uh, this is almost a good parlay because that boat was a VIP vessel for the Freedom Liberty campaign in 1983 down there in Lower Thames Street, Newport. I was on the dock right next to the A-frame where they hauled out the Liberty and the Freedom, the 12 meters. So I got to know all the guys and the people involved. I was part of the support team, but my boss was paying me, who was a big contributor. That's why his boat was there. And when we lost the cup, Arthur Wolschlager, Captain Tuna, he was the owner of the Fire 3, which was the big Hatteras that towed the 12 meters out to the race course. As you know, they have no engines. And he was quite a character, and we got to know each other. And in World War II, he was in charge of the Seabees, the Quonset huts, and, hitting the beach in the South Pacific and building a camp.
Mm-hmm.
So the New York Yacht Club asked him to head up the campaign because we were going to a foreign country. This was the first time in 132 years that
Mm-hmm.
the Cup. It was the longest winning streak in sports. And so he asked me and my wife to go along and be part of the operations team. And it was the greatest thing ever happened to me. It was a great experience. We lived in Australia for 4 years. Got to know the people and the culture.
How do you see a difference between like authentic maritime culture and entitled wealth?
Well, yes. I mean, the New York Yacht Club would be the kingpin of that. And my apologies now to the club. The fact that they held on to the America's Cup for 132 years
Mm-hmm.
is itself amazing. And, of course, everyone will tell you, especially the foreigners, that they kept changing the rules. And they would always change the rules to favor them and it always helped them. And
Well, they still do that, don't they?
well, they try to, but they the New York Yacht Club has never recovered. They haven't done anything since '83. I mean, since '80 actually,
Mm.
when Dennis Conner won it then. But Dennis
Wow.
Conner got the best of the New York Yacht Club. I mean, this is a local conspiracy theory, but what we always found is strange. The America's Cup it's a race amongst yacht clubs. It's not a race amongst countries.
Mm-hmm.
So Dennis Conner, being from San Diego, he could never get the cup to San Diego because he would come over here and he would get into preliminary races with other American skippers to see who would represent the New York Yacht Club.
Mm.
Suspiciously, we lose in '83. The cup goes to Australia, and then Dennis Conner shows up representing the San Diego Yacht Club.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then he goes on and spanks the Aussies, and he brings the America's Cup to San Diego. So,
Interesting.
That's the only way he could get the cup to San Diego. But again, it's a conspiracy theory. It's fun to talk about. I'm hoping on his deathbed he will tell us if he blew that third leg. But most people think that I'm wrong.
Well, speaking of conspiracy local stories, do you remember the guy, the city squatter who lived in the corner of the harbor in Newport?
Oh, yeah. Captain Carl.
And he was really beloved by the locals and hated at the same time because he was profiting from the city and getting free dockage and was there for I don't know how many years. Remember at one point he had a little restaurant and I was covering him and I think at the end he really hated me. At the same time, he was a local folk hero too because he was a colorful character. You had to deal with guys like that, and then you had to deal with the mega yachts coming into town.
And the commercial fishermen. Yes, Carl, I had a love-hate relationship with him. As far as I'm concerned, he won in the end because they had to get him out of there because they had all this federal money to spend in that little corner at Parati Park, which now the new harbor master office is in. He's got all these moorings in Breton Cove now, and which they stuffed in there. That drove me crazy. Carl is definitely part of the old lore of Newport Harbor before the mega yachts. It
was so much fun covering all that because he would tell the Coast Guard, you cannot inspect me. I'm a building. I'm under the jurisdiction of the building inspector, and then the building inspector would come to inspect, and he would tell him, "No, I'm a yacht. What are you doing coming to inspect my boat?" So he would stay in that gray zone.
Oh yeah, and then he put docks on his moorings, so he would register the mooring. He built a marina out of moorings.
Oh my God. So much fun to write about.
Every loophole you could find, he found.
So what do you think watching all these characters in the harbor, on the water? I mean, you've got like an extensive life. Your great-great-grandfather worked with Thomas Edison. He helped to make the oscillating fan.
Yes, in New Jersey. And he also is credited with putting in the first streetlights in Newark. He was creative and he put the inventions to practical use. He didn't necessarily invent the motor for the fan, but he's the one who said, let's make it go back and forth. And then, the light bulb was invented and he said, let's get rid of these gas lamps. And I believe that Newark was one of the first cities in America to have streetlights.
That's so cool.
But and then the family side of the story is that he and Thomas Edison were drinking buddies, and my great grandfather bought a bar with all his money that he made, and of course lost it all because never charged anybody for a drink. So hence we never got the family fortune, but. That be the Irish, as they say.
Yep. If it weren't for alcohol, they would rule the world, right?
Right. God invented whiskey so the Irish wouldn't rule the world.
Wow. Was it expected in your family that you would get into the business of, taking care of boats and being the chief of a harbor?
No, I don't know if you really want to hear this story. It's got some entertainment value. Um,
Yeah.
I had hardly any. My neighbor had a boat, and I helped him paint it, and he took me out when they were building the Verrazano Narrows Bridge and connecting Staten Island and New York back in the '60s, and that was it. And I went to college. I was going to be a coach, a physical education teacher. I went to coach soccer and track, and I got a job as a DJ in a bar. I always loved music, and it was during the disco era. But I was playing rock and roll. And because the guy had changed this, it was a college bar. I went to Manhattan College in the Bronx, just up Broadway from Columbia, where you went. We used to train at the Columbia Bubble when I was on the track team. But this guy turned this college bar into a disco, and nobody went. The college kids were all from Jersey, Connecticut, and Long Island, and they really weren't into the disco. So I went in and told the guy, "Hey, I got all these albums. I'll play rock and roll." So it got real popular, and I had people coming from all over the Bronx, and I used to do this dance. I always try to take claim for break dancing. That the African Americans, they dance on the floor, but I used to do a dance called the Snake. It was Jake the Snake, and it was a horizontal number. And anyway,
Well, you'll have to show us someday.
yeah. And it was a great time in my life, but I kept getting fired. The guy he hated me from the beginning because his dream, I crushed his dream with rock and roll. And like the third time he fired me, one of the girls that always, came said, "Hey, you need a job. My boss is looking for somebody to clean his boat." City Island, which is in the West Bronx. I was in the East Bronx. Opposite. That's in the East Bronx. I was in the West Bronx. So I said, "Yeah, that's me." Because I always used to sit on the banks of the Hudson River and look at the tugboats and think that would be a great job. Anyway, long story short, I wrote port and starboard on my Chuck Taylor Converse high top sneakers, and took the job and just started absorbing. And the guy liked me. I fell in love with the whole concept, and the owner took a liking to me, and he said, "Hey, I'm thinking of moving the boat south for the winter, down to Fort Myers." He said, "You want to live on it?" He goes, "I'll hire a captain to take the boat down, and then you can live on it in the winter, and we'll come down a few times." So I was like, "Yeah." So he hired a captain, and we hit it off, and this guy taught me so much. And I made 2 trips with him, down and back. And then I sat for my captain's license. I was fresh out of college, so I knew how to take tests. I got one, like a 6-pack license, one of the smaller licenses, and I worked my way up to a 200-ton.
Can you explain what a 6-pack license is? Like our listeners might not know what that is. They might assume it's a 6-pack of beer.
Yeah, it means you can take 6 passengers out for hire. You can legally, mostly like a charter fishing boat, like a 40-foot sport fishing boat. The guy can take 6 passengers legally with his license, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
It's all about bringing people on board. The Coast Guard doesn't care that much for you to have papers, doing a lot of different things on the water. But when you start carrying passengers, everything has to be in order, which is the way it should be.
Wow. Was that part of your job? Was checking that people had their documentation?
No, that's the Coast Guard's job. But if we had issues or I had to fill out an accident report or something like that, yes, then I asked the guy for his credentials.
So what did your parents think when you when you started working on boats?
At first, it was what happened was during that time there was, especially in New York City, it was hard to get a teaching job. Now they're begging for them, I think. And it was a
Mm-hmm.
good, honorable profession. I couldn't get a job. This worked out perfectly. And then I had
Mm-hmm.
them come visit me in Fort Myers, and they never said a word again. They enjoyed it. And I don't think there was ever any disappointment in the beginning. And, as I started doing better, I think my father was really proud.
Mm. But it's interesting that you didn't follow society's script.
Yeah. I don't know. The coincidence, um, my wife occasionally will call me an opportunist. And the opportunity was there, and I grabbed it. Um,
Yeah.
I said, "Hey, you can get paid to do this." And then, you know, once I found myself in Newport, in the middle of, especially the America's Cup, I was flying high. I couldn't. I mean, I literally went from port starboard on my Chuck Taylors to um, driving a VIP vessel in the America's Cup, hanging out with Walter Cronkite in a couple of years.
Because now you're still on boats, and you go down south on your 35-foot sloop. So what is it about, being on a boat solo even that is so wonderful?
The obvious answer, it's the freedom, and it's almost addicting,
Mm.
especially in today's world. It's spiritual. On my boat, I love to have guests, but if I'm traveling, I get into a groove, and it's just this. Every day has a purpose, and you're moving, and everything's changing, and it's just I'm at peace when I'm doing it.
Mm. Did your son, who Rory, does he like being on boats?
Yeah, he likes boats, but he's too much like me. He was going to make his own way. There is one parallel between him and I, and that is that when he found his passion, which is music, he went all in. My joke with him is my son can't even play the cowbell, but he's producing albums. So I think the parallel is that he took something he loved and went all in, and got good results.
Yeah, he's a popular hip hop podcaster now.
Yeah, yeah, he just put out another song for his second album. He produces and he writes, but he
Hmm.
doesn't, he doesn't play any instruments, and he has apparently a good ear.
Yeah. Well,
But
his lyrics are pretty amazing.
yeah, yeah,
You're now a grandfather, right?
yes, I have a beautiful uh, granddaughter, 2.5 years old, Amara. She's got
Uh,
red hair and green eyes, and her mother is Jamaican.
hmm.
So the Irish gene pushed its way right up to the front.
uh, oh,
Yeah,
that's
she's beautiful.
that's so cool. How has that changed your life?
A lot, because now I feel like I want to be around to see her grow up.
Hmm.
So I try to be a little healthier. And it's nice, you get all the love without the work as a grandparent.
You can hand them back at the end of the day, right?
Exactly. Yeah, there's a million sayings, but and they're all true.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
so
no, it's
cool.
been fun. It's been fun.
Yeah, because do you mind telling us how old you are now?
I'm 71.
And you're still taking care of, James Taylor's boat, and you're harbor
Yeah.
master of Middletown, Rhode Island.
Yeah, that's a seasonal job where, like, the Newport Harbor Master, that's year round. It's a big job. The Middletown Harbor Master is just a seasonal. It's perfect for me. So I work two jobs in the summer, and then I take the winters off to sail my boat. So it's a
Mm,
good semi-retirement.
yeah. Wow, that's cool that you can do both.
Yeah, James has a bunch of small boats, and I just got to make sure they're all running. I manage his stuff more than anything. I don't drive him around. I'm not his captain. He can drive his own boat. His sons, they're all efficient. So I
Hmm.
just occasionally I'll make sure they're safe.
Hmm.
If they're going over the jazz festival or something, I'll give them a tutorial. I actually took one of his kids over, showed him how to anchor and what to do. So, just be smart about your partying, because it's a crazy, crazy scene. God really does protect babies and drunks. In all my years there, close to 12, I only had one incident where somebody got hit with a water balloon in the eye and was seriously damaged, but that was about it, which is amazing.
I wanted to talk to you about, because you, being a mariner, you're alone a lot. You've done, these deliveries down south where you've gone, offshore. You've been you've been alone on boats a lot.
Yes.
So what has solitude taught you?
That I've given up on humanity. uh,
Because it's so nice to be alone?
It's nice to be alone, and it suits me. I don't know. It's my personality, something in me. When somebody else is on board, I'm always worried about the other person. I'm worried about if they're comfortable. See, when I'm by myself and the weather sucks, I'll just keep going. Or if I'm tired and I don't feel like eating, I'm just going to anchor. And it's just me and nature. And I don't know if I'm over considerate or if this is a plus or minus thing. But when I have other people on, I just worry about them. And in fact, it's gotten me in trouble once when I had family on board. So and the thing is, Diana, if I have any wealth, it is the friends that I have collected over the years. I've got friends from here to the Bahamas. Usually, it's 2 days alone, and then I'm in a port, and I'm with an old friend. I've got a lot of friends in the Chesapeake on the Eastern Shore. I've got friends in North Carolina, South Carolina, North Florida, South Florida. Lifelong friends. Like if you send Christmas cards, and we always look forward to seeing each other.
Well, you've been a friend for 30 years. My God.
Yeah, I knew you before you had kids.
Yeah. We'd hang out at the old Nary.
Yes. I miss that place.
Yeah, with the black and white tiles that they could wash down after the bar fights.
Yeah.
And where all the fishermen hung out. You introduced me to all the fishermen, I remember.
Yeah. I mean, everyone, it was a everybody bar. Dogs, kids, grandmas, fishermen, yachtsmen. I met Billy Joel in there.
Wow.
Well, actually, I had met Billy Joel. I knew his captain. He came into the Newport a lot, and so I had already met him. But I was in there one day, and he was in there with his girlfriend, and he's only about 4'11" or something, and so no one noticed him. And I remember sitting at the bar and saying, that's Billy Joel, and because you didn't want to bother him.
No, did he? And he didn't sing at all, or
no. He was playing pool. Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
I did a profile on you, and you would call me up whenever there was something drastic happening. And are we allowed to say that you used to give me a few photographs because you're a hobby photographer?
Yeah, I took pictures on the Harbor Master boat, but I had the camera there for accidents.
Yeah. And then I remember you took me to my first American football game.
Oh, yeah, Patriots.
Have you ever been torn between being authentic Jake Farrell and, I don't know, being something that's not really you?
Well, in the beginning of my career, and especially as I would slip into these better and better jobs, I always felt I was a little bit of an actor because I was bullshitting my way in a lot of ways. I remember I got a job teaching sailing at the offshore sailing school in City Island in the Bronx, and I had a basic understanding of sailing, and I had a very good understanding of seamanship and navigation at that point in my life, but I had never put up a spinnaker. I had never done any racing sailing, and I learned teaching sailing. I learned so much from the students. If that makes any sense. Near the end of my harbor master tenure, I started feeling that way. It was so hard, the politics. People keep changing. They have a waterfront commission, which is appointed by the city council. And every time new people would get in, they all had their own ideas. And then, unfortunately, the politics part, most of those people would get on these boards for personal gain. They
Mm-hmm.
were looking for a mooring, or, they wanted favors. I used to say when I was harbor master, I needed two signs. One was complaints and the other was favors. That's what you deal with. Nobody comes through the door and says, "How you doing, man? You're doing a great job." It's either so and so's boat is in my way and whatever, and hey, man, I'm friend of Joey. Joey Donuts. He told me I could talk to you about something.
So what did you say to guys like that?
Well, you have to say no. You just say no.
Yeah.
Just,
But what's the authentic Jake Farrell way of saying no? Is it like, hell no, get out of my face? Or, yeah.
Well, I occasionally I would slip when I get really, rude. I mean, people just throwing names at me or trying to tell me this is how it works in Rhode Island. You don't understand, type of stuff. That's when I would get mad. But
Mm-hmm.
otherwise, I would just be, yes them and polite them to death. I've got a little bit of a temper, but I don't want it to come out because it's, and it can easily. And why I left the Newport Harbor Master, I just, it was affecting my life. I didn't sleep that good when I had that job.
Wow. Well, I'm glad you're in a better place now.
Yep, couldn't be happier.
Before we wrap up, I'd like to thank Oliver Kiker for the jingle and Gwendolyn Christian for the backup support. Also, a quick reminder, these interviews are not a substitute for professional, medical, legal, or psychological advice. Always consult with a qualified professional for any major decisions in your life. And thanks for joining me in exploring the connections that make us human and learning insights and strategies to help us build, heal, and nurture relationships, including and especially the one with yourself. It's been an honor to share this time with you and to bring you conversations with some of the brightest minds who deserve more recognition. Remember, life's too short to take too seriously, so don't forget to hit that subscribe button, get outside, and let's continue this journey of life together. See you next time.